Chyna. I don't know if I've ever touched on her on this channel yet. I've certainly mentioned, people around her, Triple H, Stephanie. And speaking of Stephanie McMahon, as I record this, she just makes another horrific return, and you marks cheered for her. Please tell me, when Stephanie McMahon appears on wrestling, why are the people in the crowd cheering for her? This is the woman who helped the downfall of the company when she became the head writer. She's the one that took them out of the Attitude Era. She's the one that put herself on TV to be a raging bitch. She's the one who went along when Triple H said, let's bury this person and this person and this person and this person. But you people cheer her when her music hits. Chyna is an iconic figure, a legendary individual in the history of wrestling. That's incontestable or uncontestable or some contesting. There was a time when she was the biggest female in wrestling, her and Sable. They were two of the biggest draws in wrestling as far as ratings wise and so on and so forth. Chyna was an iconic figure, pop culture figure. My God, the many shifts and changes in her chin and jaw and cheekbones and other places. But she was a phenomenon. She wrestled with the men. She was big enough where you could, it wasn't completely just ridiculous, her beating up men. Her size made it believable. Now, I'm sure, she did wear heels or lifts in her boots as they did. Undertaker wore lifts and Kane wore lifts and so on and so forth. But she was something you had never really seen in wrestling. And she was a top name in wrestling when you get to 1999, 2000, into 2001. Now, post-wrestling, once again, her face shifts again. She's kind of, Chyna was kind of like the white Lil' Kim. She looked different every 3 years. Okay, this is back in 99 and happier times. Shane McMahon, look, where's his hand reaching? Where Vince's hand was reaching? Oh, look at Kane, man. Oh, man. This is when Kane, they had him as like weren't they like drugging him? So they were like P. Diddy and Kane back then and making him a bodyguard of the ministry, the corporation, the corporate ministry. Oh, 99, my favorite year of wrestling as far as WWF. Oh, I love that year, man. I said it on this channel before, I have my, let me see, where is it at here? It might be in the beginning of the channel. I have my, let me see, should be here in the very beginning. Yeah, here we go. My VHS tape collect. Oh, look at that, Beyond the Mat. Check out this video. It's 51 minutes of my VHS wrestling tape collection, ECW, WCW, WWF, and I believe I showed that I have like every Raw and SmackDown and pretty much every pay-per-view from 99 on VHS tape. I bought it from some mark on one of I think Dave Meltzer has a forum or something. Whatever. I somehow got on there and because I think I Googled like this was years ago. I was like Googling like old wrestling tapes because I think this was like 2010, 2011. I was like, I cannot watch this trash. So I Googled buy old wrestling tapes, and it took me to Meltzer's forum. So I bought like 1 million tapes off of some mark on Meltzer's website. So anyway, so I have like every Raw from every Raw, SmackDown, Heat, and pay-per-view pretty much. Probably like 96% of the entire year of 99, 2000. Tremendous. And then also check out my DVD collection. Oh, is that the Royal Rumble anthology? Check out those two videos. Now anyway, but back to Chyna. She was an iconic figure. She was a draw, and she was on what was it Third Rock from the Sun, that TV show. She was everywhere. I think they put her on if I'm not mistaken, wasn't she on Celebrity Deathmatch? And she was a major factor in wrestling. But she did develop arrogance. She did develop entitlement. There was a time in 2001 where, because like I said, in 99, she started wrestling men, 2000, and to the point where, they put her in the ring with, Jeff Jarrett on pay-per-view. And I think she faced Val Venus, I think on King of the Ring 99. Like, I think they teased her being the king of the ring in 99, if I'm not mistaken. I remember something like that. They put her in with Jericho, and Jericho got monstrous heat. I have a video on this channel about the major heat Jericho got in 99. I have 2 videos about that. And one of the big reasons Jericho had heat in 99 is because Chyna said, he's hitting me too hard, which was funny because Chyna, she was known she would hit the man hard as hell. Let me see here. Yeah, here we go. I have 2 videos. Jericho had monster heat. This is just 2-part. Check out both of these videos. And she complained about Chris Jericho and things like that, and other problems Jericho had in the company that you might not know about. But in 99, 2000, they allowed her to wrestle men. But then when they got to 2000, late 2000, 2001, they wanted to scale her back, and they wanted her to be in the women's division again, 100% of the time. And they were going to make her the women's champion. But what happened was she refused. Creative had changed. Also, when you get to November 2000, that's when they make Stephanie the head of creative, which was the downfall of this company. Did I say that earlier? Hit the like button. Share this video. Subscribe to this channel. Get you a membership. And the direction they wanted for her in late 2000 and 01 was, okay, you wrestled men. We feel like we've done the most we're going to do with that. And Chyna, she actually, she became very delusional. I like Chyna. She's a legend, rest her soul, but she became very delusional. She actually pitched the idea to the company of her becoming the WWF champion. She wanted to be the WWF champion. And they looked at her like she's crazy, which is crazy. She wanted to still wrestle men. She wanted to be in the main event against men. So her and Austin, her and Rock, like, no, her and Undertaker, no, we're not doing that. And she thought that, she was being held back, and how dare you not push me this hard? And she thought this. And they told her, no, we put you against men, Val Venus, Jericho. We put you in the mid-card, upper mid-card versus men. We're not going to push you for the WWF title. We'll give you the women's title. And she thought the women's title was beneath her because this is what she did. These are facts. You can look up the history. These are facts. She said, well, I'm above the women and I'm bigger than them and they're not believable next to me, which is true, I guess. If you put her next to, if you put Chyna next to like Ivory, it doesn't really, come on, you're not gonna believe Ivory can beat her in a real fight. Even if Ivory could, maybe she could, I don't know, in a shoot, I don't know. But, she thought she was above the women and above the women's title. And she wanted to be a top main eventer. And then that delusion, not just the delusion of positioning, she wanted to be making $1 million a year, which at the time in 2001 was absurd money that only Rock and Austin were getting. Rock, Austin, maybe Undertaker and Triple H were getting that money. Nobody else. The next tier after them were like Kane, maybe Benoit, because he came over from WCW. Maybe Benoit was in that. I don't know if he was. I don't know. The next tier might have been like 600,000, 700,000. But the people who are making $1 million in 2001 were Austin and Rock and Triple H. But they're also draws. She wanted Austin Rock money, and that was the final straw. So when they realized there's no talking to her, she's an egomaniac. Her view of herself is ballooned into oblivion. If you remember, her last run was in the spring of 01, and they tried to put her in a feud with Lita. And if you go back and watch her feud with Lita that was leading up to pay-per-view, she kind of belittled Lita. It wasn't really serious. There was some... I think there was a segment where Chyna had to whip Lita with a belt, or there was something about someone had to get whipped, but then I think Chyna was kind of giggling while she did it. Like she was not taking the angle seriously. And at the time they were heavily pushing Lita, and their idea was, okay, we're going to get the belt off Chyna and write her off, and we're going to have Lita beat Chyna. But then she kind of really didn't put Lita over like that. So, these are all last straws, burning bridges. And then they came to terms. So you get to this article from WrestleView.com, June 22nd, 2001. They stole this from Meltzer. And it says, the latest news on Chyna's whereabouts is certainly a serious one as of now. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer has reported that both Chyna and the World Wrestling Federation, one moment, both appear imminent to part ways. Chyna, Joni Lauer, has a contract which is set to expire on the 30th of November 2001, right after they killed the Invasion. Yeah, they got rid of her and gave her Flair's money. Negotiations have hit a stumbling block on the money side of things, possibly also on the direction of her character and what future roles lay ahead for her. No decision has been made on what will be done in regards to the women's title, but it seems that Chyna is being kept off television whilst the situation is being resolved. And that last sentence is, they wanted her to drop the belt to Lita. She didn't want to lose the belt to Lita. She was impossible to deal with at this point. Impossible to deal with at this point. And that's the story of the last days in Titan, the last days in WWF of one Chyna Joni Lauer. And then afterwards, she left wrestling. They owned the name, so she couldn't use it, and that's something that really hurt her. She went to Japan. She wrestled some guy named Chono or something, whatever. Then she got on a bunch of TV shows, Surreal Life, and then she ended up getting popped on camera. She did the Paige tape before Paige did. And, she was getting busted on and busted in. And then she did her interview with Russo. She did an interview with Vince Russo on his channel. She alleged that Triple H beat her, which I believe. And then she was found unresponsive. And that's the end of Chyna and so on and so forth. A legend, an icon, but she created part of her downfall. And, other people played a part. I'm sure people watching. What about the Stephanie and Triple H cheating thing? Yeah, okay. But this is more of a business. This video is more about the business dealings of her exit, not so much the personal feelings and things. And with that said, I'm up out of here. XDN wins. Once again, memberships are open. If you have a video request or you want to support the channel beyond memberships, you can donate to the Cash App. It's $XDN online. And that is it.